So I first started learning web development back in college, and I was actually a part of an organization, Relay for Life, and I was basically just helping plan it. And we were at one of our meetings, and I looked over and I saw this girl working on the website, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And I became interested, like, "Whoa, what you got going on over there?" And so she was like, "Oh, I'm maintaining the website and." I'm a management information systems major, and she began to tell me more about like what she's doing and kind of how she is doing what she's doing, and I was like, that's really cool. And she said you should go talk to the advisor, for our department and see if it's something that you're interested in. And I was like, oh, cool. I like that idea. So I talked to my advisor. There's this kooky dude. I mean, he was just, I've had him in class before as a professor, but, he's just really kooky, really crazy, but really cool. And he was like, look, Tiffany, if this is something that you want to do, you got to figure out. So go take a class first and, see how you like it. If you like it, then come back and we'll have, we'll set you up. We'll, start that talk. And I was like, sounds like a plan. So that summer I went to my local community college because it was cheaper than my university. It still is. So FYI, side note. And I went and I took that class. I took a C++ class. And a C++ was cool at first. I was like, oh, cool. And I liked it because it was web development in general. But it was being a developer, I guess, in general. And so I was able to see Hello World on the screen, and I was able to do math. I love doing math. So I was like, wow, how awesome is this? I really get to be able to, you can do whatever you want, basically, and create things. And I was really excited about it. So I went back and, told him, I was like, I enjoyed it and I want to continue it. And he's like, great, let's get you started on the program. So I had originally was a marketing major, then I turned into a management major, and then now I was a management information systems major. And this was about the end of my second year of college, so not much time went past. But I became a management information systems major, and what that basically is taking business classes and computer science classes, and it was a perfect fit for me because I wanted to know more about the business. I thought it would be just good to know business in general, to be able to have that knowledge, that background, and I am grateful that I took those classes to this day. And then also computer science classes, just because like I love technology. I've always been on the computer ever since I was a kid. So I was like, okay, cool. So now that I knew at this point that someone had to create these web pages that I was viewing this whole time, and I said that person could have been me, and I got really excited about it. So, of course, pursued it. I took lots of classes during that time. I took the data structures class I took was probably the most grueling for me. Not only was the professor just blah, but just the purpose of the class was kind of like, now why are we doing this again? Because that's when they started talking about arrays and linked lists and all these different structures that are normally on, like if you do a whiteboarding challenge, those kinds of things are on that whiteboarding challenge, and those are things that you want to know. But I didn't know about that, back then. I mean, this was 8 years ago. So, I mean, I didn't know. So I'm like, what are these things? And why do I need to know these things? And why is this so difficult? So, at the end of the day, I'm like, I just want to create websites. So that was my thing. So I was able to do that in my PHP, MySQL courses. We combined them and was able to display data on a web page, and I thought that was the coolest thing. I mean, we were working like working with tables and HTML, and we're learning how to display that information in our websites, and so it was like really cool. And I was like, wow, I made stuff up here. Look at me now. But it was just a really cool experience. And At the end, my senior year, I took an ASP.NET class, and that was really cool. I was able to, again, create websites. I leaned more towards the front end of things at that time, and I liked making things appear on the screen, and I knew in order to do that you had to know that back end knowledge, which was that PHP, MySQL stuff that I mentioned. But I leaned more towards the front end because I could see it, and I wanted to be able to see things, straight away. When you're first starting to learn anything, the first thing you want to do is be able to see the fruits of your labor. And so I was like, oh, I just want to see the things already. Yeah. So I was able to do that. It was really cool. And after I graduated college, I'm like, dude, give me a job as a developer at all of the things. Well, that didn't happen. And so I was a little upset. I didn't know going into it, I didn't really know how to go about finding that job as a developer that I really wanted so badly. And as I spoke to recruiter after recruiter after recruiter after recruiter, it was more like, yeah, you don't have any skills that we want to take on at the time. And I'm like, okay. And then you don't have projects. And I was like, crap, why am I supposed to get projects? And it was this new thing. I just didn't know how to navigate it. And I don't know whether it was just a lack of resources out there not telling me, or whether it was just me not being able to find those things that were kind of hidden. I feel like now they're all over the internet, and you can't really go a day without seeing something about learning how to code or how to get a job as a developer. So back then it wasn't as prevalent as it is now, but I'm pretty sure there was information there. It's just like I didn't know how to find it. So with that being said, I ended up landing a job, but it wasn't a job I wanted. It was a job that I was like, well, I have to just work because, I graduated at that point, 6 months ago, or, however long it was. And it was like, I need a job. So I took a job at this place, and it was like not my jam, but I did it just because, hey, I needed a job. I needed the work experience. And prior to that, I'd only work part-time at work doing campus tours. So I was like, I need a real job. So I took a job, and the title was database administrator. It sounded really exciting, doesn't it? It's not. So what I did was basically find things on the internet to put into their database. And their database was already structured how they wanted it, and it was basically just different input tags, and you just put things in these input tags. Basically, it's probably the best way I could explain it, but they weren't actually input tags. It's just how I'm going to explain it for this, and you just basically paste information in there. And I'm like, this is not what I signed up for. I thought I was going to have with the title and everything, I thought it was going to be something else and something different, something more than what it was. Something working with MySQL databases is what I was expecting, and that didn't happen. So that job didn't last long. I got laid off 6 months afterwards. I started in June 2nd and about 2 weeks before Christmas, they said, we don't have any money to pay y'all, so bye. And I was like, oh, well, geez. Okay, where's my money? It wasn't like I was sad or anything. It was more just like, okay, well, that's life, and I have to move on. So although there were some people that were upset, it was like 10 people that got laid off. It was a very small company. And the industry just was very small and specific. It was like research for professors overseas in different countries. And so they would find projects, or they would have projects from third-party sources. And those people would recruit people like my company at the time to find professors to be able to do research so they're able to carry out the research for whatever project this other company was working on. So it was too many things, really. But I left there. I decided to just kick back. It was 2 weeks before Christmas. What am I going to do, right? I was like, yeah, I'm just going to chill for a couple weeks and I'll start back up in January. So January started. I'm like, all right, developer time, And I got the same things like, you don't have any experience. And at that time, I was like, what do you mean? Of course I don't have any experience, but I have this degree and they're supposed to, that's supposed to validate me. And I was also like, I did projects while I was in college, utilizing HTML and CSS and those PHP and MySQL and ASP.NET. We created a nonprofit website for that. So I'm thinking this is enough, right? And it's not. It was not. It didn't cut it. But I didn't really grasp it at the time. I just was like, fine. So I got a new job. I started at a life insurance company and I was a data integrity analyst. And I was like, okay, they mentioned MySQL and, to be able to build up to be able to do that. So I was like, cool. No. So I went, I did the job, I got the job. And, I love the people I worked with. They were awesome people, really cool people. I still keep in contact with some of them today. It was a really cool place to be in my life. Not the company. It wasn't cool. It was life insurance. But, but it was a really cool place to be because I was able to learn that corporate world because I came from a very small work environment. So now I'm in corporate America, So I was like, okay, this is different. Let me learn what I can here. I did my job. My job was basically reviewing and auditing reports. And I always say I learned something from every job that I was at. So the job prior to that, I learned how to research. So I was good at going on Google and finding the information about these professors that I needed. And now currently at the job at the life insurance company, like you couldn't go to Google and find the information you need. You had to talk to people. So I got really good at going to the senior staff and being like, hey, I'm supposed to be reviewing these things. They're not showing up on this report or something's looking weird about this report. Where do we go from here? So I got really good at communicating to senior staff and senior staff and being able to talk to them and kind of figure out what we needed to do. And I got really good at doing that. And that was my job, basically, was to find things that went wrong with these reports. And I was very good at finding bugs and issues like, no, this ain't right. So, I tend to get good at what I'm doing at that time. So, and as I'm sure most people do. But it's just like, hey, this is my job now. This is what I'm doing. So I stayed there for 3 years. And, it was a really good experience, like I said. But it wasn't that developer job I was looking for. So my 3rd year anniversary for my job, my boss calls me into her office and she always used to give us raises, for the company. So she'd submit proposals to give us raises. And I always did my work. I was always, I wasn't always prompt, but I always told her when I wasn't going to be there on time and things like that. So just keeping up that communication and doing my work as I was supposed to be doing. And so she's like, Tiffany, we got you a raise. And I was like, well, I'm thinking about this coding bootcamp thing. So it was a little different.